Monday, June 21st. So the moon is in Scorpio all day. 11 different aspects here today. And let me tell you, other than one other aspect taking place with Venus, which we'll talk about here in a second, this would definitely be a moon day. Fun fact here, this is the first full day of Cancer season. The moon rules over Cancer, essentially meaning that the moon will be really influencing us for this whole season. Yes, the sun is the masculine life force that illuminates for us where nurturing needs to take place, where our family dynamic needs to be arranged, where boundaries need to be taken into consideration, where we're being illuminated on having to listen to our heart, listen to our intuition for this next chapter. The moon rules over Monday. That is the moon's day. And so we have 11 different aspects taking place here today that is really going to feel overwhelming. Heads up. If you gotta cry, let it out. Let me tell you, emotions are energy, E, right? E, if we go back to school, E equals MC squared, right? E represents energy. Motion is the fluidity that we need to adopt in order to move this energy through us. What is the best way of releasing energy? Crying. That is the best form of release. And we are going to get real weepy as we move throughout Cancer season. Why? Because we're reflective, we're nostalgic, we're the mama right now. We want to take care. Sometimes, you know that feeling when you're, looking back on, maybe you're looking at old photo albums, old pictures, and you're smiling, but the tears are coming and flowing at the same time because it just hits you in that heart chakra how much has changed. And you're somehow transported back into that moment where you're, seeing your younger self, where you're seeing the situations that played out at that time, and then bam, you're back in the present moment, realizing how much time has passed, how many changes have taken place. That nostalgia, that reflection hits you right in your heart chakra. And let me tell you, the last thing you want to do is swallow that lump in your throat. That is not what we need to be doing right now. We just came out of Gemini season. Gemini season rules communication. That throat chakra is activated in a very, very strong way. And it's time that we start speaking our emotions, speaking about our memories, speaking about the intuitive gut feelings that we are being kind of guided with throughout this particular chapter. So, the moon goes ahead. I'm not going to cover all 11 aspects. I'm going to try and make this as doable as possible because there are minor aspects, there are major aspects, but I want you to have a good framework to understand how emotional, how many strings are going to be tugged on that heart space, and I don't want you to feel crazy about it. So the moon starts off the day by making an aspect with Mercury, the true node, and Chiron. Another fun fact, this is Mercury's last day being retrograde. So we have to expect there to be confusion. We have to expect there to be pressure in the mental plane. We are waking up out of that fog very slowly. We're starting to piece things together. We're starting to realize what actually has taken place in reality and what it is that we dreamed up while we were retrograde, while we were drugged and asleep in the back seat of this car. So the moon in Scorpio has this conversation with Mercury in the backseat saying, okay, come on, come to. You're about to, wake up and fill up some gaps here. We have some detective work to do. We're trying to get on with things. You got to wake up. In the meantime, the true node chimes in and says, yeah, we can really use him to wake up right now because there's a lot of information coming in that our mental planes just aren't prepared to sort through right now. We have a lot of planning to do, right? The true node is trying to show us where it is that we need to align in the future in order for us to be at the right place at the right time in order to honor our soul's purpose. We have some planning to do. There are some big changes that need to take place, but we're not thinking practically or logically. Why? Because Mercury's still drugged. He's so close to being awake and coherent, but we still can't really trust his rambles right now. So the moon goes ahead and aspects Chiron, of course, the wounded healer planetoid, really showing us, and again, the moon in Scorpio, shadow, self, right? We're diving into the darkness. What sits in the darkness? Our wounds, our pain, our suffering. Chiron wants to remind us of what it is that we have to feel before we can heal. And a lot of that is going back. A lot of this is going back to that painful event, back to the last heartbreak, back to the time in which you were suffering, and rewrite the script. We have to free ourselves. We have to transform and alchemize a dark situation into light. We have the ability to turn that pain into a source of power. And Chiron right now is just reminding us that we have some things that we still need to accept and acknowledge before we can move on. So the moon in Scorpio goes ahead and squares Saturn. I love the comments coming up on my posts lately. I really encourage you guys to drop some comments because you guys keep me super entertained throughout the week with all this stuff. But I had one subscriber, shout out to you, I know you know who you are, say that Saturn is a bummer. Yes, Saturn is a bummer. Saturn, I want you to think of Saturn as like this classic military type grandfather, right? There's no fun to be had. He's trying to make you do yard work. He's trying to make you, pull up your socks and clean up your hair. He wants you to do things a certain way. There's no fun to be had. But that life lesson, that tough love shapes us into the kind of characters that we need to be, where discipline is concerned, where structure is concerned. And so although Saturn, yes, is kind of a bummer, I do refer to Saturn as negative Nancy because that's kind of what gets triggered in us when Saturn gets activated, is that negative Nancy narrative, right? And that drill sergeant type of energy from that military grandfather. You got to do this way. You got to do that way. Sit up straight, comb your hair, all this kind of stuff. So the moon in Scorpio squares, has a tension point, has a confrontational conversation with Saturn, who is retrograde in Aquarius. Now, here's the thing. We're getting caught up on blocks. Why? Because the Scorpio energy is kind of obsessive, right? We get stuck in certain thought patterns where jealousy, betrayal, lies, deception have taken place in our lives. And we loop that. And we build a negative type of vibration and anger, hurt, pain, suffering towards that. And the Saturn energy, of course, retrograde wants us to move inwards. We're doing, an internal renovation like no other right now, and really wants us to see where it is that we are our own prisoners. It's almost like we have the keys in our pocket to the jail cell, but we've locked ourselves in there and we're going on, banging on the bars. Like we want to talk to our lawyer. Like, somebody put us in there. Somebody is being mean to us. We're being treated unfairly. And here we have the keys in our pocket. Why aren't we unlocking ourselves? Well, because having somebody else to blame, feeling like you are restricted, held back by an external force makes it easier. The hardest thing to do is to be accountable and responsible for our own actions, for our own doing. And many of us loop in a negative narrative every single day, all day long, that we have the freedom to let go of. We have the freedom to break free of. Do we? No. Why? Because that shadow part of ourself likes pain. It likes suffering. Again, who would you be if you didn't have pain and suffering attached to your identity and your ego, right? So we're going through some stuff here. And just as Saturn kind of illuminates for us, well, you do have the keys in your pocket. Maybe you should stop hollering at me and hollering at the guards and stop blaming everybody else for your own actions and take the damn keys out of your pocket and let yourself free. Maybe you should do that. So we're a little bit stunned at this point because we're like, damn, we do really have the power to set ourselves free. Are we going to do it? And just in that moment, the moon in Scorpio sits across from, opposes Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the great awakener. He's the one that zaps us with an aha moment, shows us where it is that we can be free of the things that are holding us back and keeping us in a state of paralysis. And Uranus being in Taurus, Taurus is an earth sign, very representative of our routines, of our relationships, of our money matters, of our self-worth and self-value. So damn, we just got called out by Saturn. We now know that it's up to us to take the damn keys out of our pocket and let ourselves be free. And the opposition with Uranus just bam, zaps us with a perspective, a shift in our perspective, illuminating for us where it is that we have been keeping ourselves prisoner. So now we have a choice point, because you can't unknow that kind of stuff, right? That is the worst thing about these aha moments and these great awakenings, is that once you have them, you can't unhave them. Once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so now we have a choice point to make. So the moon in Scorpio goes ahead and bumps into Pluto, its ruler. Oh Lord, Pluto in Capricorn, retrograde, of course, doing an inside job, transforming us inside out, showing us where it is that our fears are, our insecurities are, our vulnerabilities are, where it is that we are victims to a higher authority, where it is that the systems, the foundations, the structures in our lives have now imprisoned us in a reality that we have the keys in our pocket to set ourselves free from. What are we going to do about it? Well, we find out what to do about it when the moon goes ahead and makes an aspect with the sun. The sun, again, fresh in Cancer energy, putting a huge illumination on the old, on the traditional, especially where the home is concerned, where the foundation that we've built is concerned, where the boundaries that likely need to be created and implemented are concerned. Why? Because we have a tendency in Cancer and energy to be very self-sacrificial and then have the audacity to complain and build resentment and hold guilt for the actions in which we so easily do for others, and then leave us with no time and energy to do those things for ourselves, right? It's a little bit toxic. And we have to listen to our heart space here. Again, the moon in Scorpio. The moon rules over Cancer, the sun in Cancer, illuminating for us where it is that, we have built these boundaries for ourselves, where it is that we're afraid of letting go of the foundation that we've built in our relationships, in our family dynamics, in the way that we take care of ourselves and we take care of other people, knowing damn well that we are semi-controlling, semi-manipulative, and all kinds of toxic when we want to be. Again, the moon in Scorpio highlighting for us, illuminating for us all of the heavier emotions, all of the darker parts of self. So that is kind of like a zap. We can't unknow that. We can't unfeel that. We felt something shift in us the moment that we realized that we have the keys to set ourselves free. So the moon in Scorpio goes ahead and trines Neptune, who again is preparing to go retrograde. So the trine is a good energy. It's a blending of energies. There's a lot of water power here. So emotions, intuition, subconscious self. And what we need to do right now is we need to align with our higher selves, our higher power. We have to escape from the aha moments and realizations that we've just had just for a minute to kind of create a reality. What would that look like if we took the keys out of our pocket and we opened the gate to the jail cell and we freed ourselves? What would that look like if we had to be accountable and responsible for our own shit and not blame the external reality for pushing us into a corner that we are willingly setting camp up in? So that's pretty heavy. We have to let that wash over us for a second. So then the moon in Scorpio goes ahead and bumps into Mercury and Chiron again, second time, right? First time we did it right out of the gate, the beginning of the day. Now at the end of the day, we bump into Mercury, who is, again, semi-awake at this point, and Chiron, of course, illuminating for us what it is that we visited earlier throughout the day, where our wounds were illuminated, where our fears were illuminated, where our insecurities were illuminated, where the dark parts of ourselves now have seen an aha moment, realization of light. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And the moon in Scorpio, who is all about transformation, right? But is also a fixed sign. So we really need to come to this realization that we want to transform within ourselves. We can't let external pressures force us into transforming. It has to be an agreement between the heart, the head, and the soul. And at this point, we escape for a little minute, and the moon in Scorpio trines with Neptune again, but this time brings Venus in on it. What's Venus got to do with it? Well, she's the goddess of love, beauty, power, self-worth, self-value. Venus right now is in Cancer. So we have the moon in Scorpio, water sign. We have Neptune in Pisces, water sign. We have Venus in Cancer, water sign. What does this tell you? We're going through an emotional renovation here. Our heart chakras are on lock. Why? Because we just had these amazing revelations and realizations that we are our own captor. What are we going to do about it? So this trine between Neptune and Venus is saying, okay, I see where it is that I'm locking myself away. I see where it is that I'm my worst own enemy. So when I trust my heart, I know that I have to free myself. What am I freeing myself from? Well, likely the rut that I've gotten in my routine. I'm likely sprinkling all kinds of bad habits in my routine that is blocking me from aligning with a flow of energy that would support me manifesting my dreams and my visions. Instead, I stick to the same old, same old. I talk about wanting change. I talk about, manifesting my dreams, and then I don't do anything in the run of my day in order to encourage that change. You are likely going to be illuminated to these relationships that you must let go of. Why? Because you are in control of putting yourself in a bad relationship, a toxic situation where your partner is mirroring back to you all of the self-worth, self-esteem, conditioning aspects that were ingrained in you as a child. I'm going to go real deep psychology on you here for a second, because there's no better time to do this with the moon in Scorpio. Where you have aligned yourself with the personal and intimate relationships that you are currently feeding into and nurturing in your life represents the relationship that you had with your mother, with your father. Okay? And I know you might be cringing going, ew, no, that ain't right. Trust me, that is right. If you grew up in a household where your father was not present, you best believe that you are aligned with a person who is emotionally unavailable. If you grew up in a childhood environment where your mother was not nurturing and loving, you can bet that you are in a relationship right now where your partner puts you down, makes you feel like you are not worthy of their love. Okay? Now, in the same token, if you grew up in a happy, healthy household, you're likely aligning with happy, non-toxic, loving, encouraging, supporting people. However, that is not where most of us find ourselves, because most of us were born into broken homes. Even if both of your parents were present, we are coming out of a generation where there was no emotional intelligence, there was no feelings, there was no nurturing. It was basically a business contract, if nothing else. And because it was void of the love and nurturing and support and structure that we need as little human beings to understand what unconditional love is supposed to be, because we were void of that, We're on a constant search for that. But the problem is that the wounds that we carry inside of us get mirrored to us in our external realm, especially through our personal relationships. So the moon in Scorpio trining with Neptune in Pisces and Venus in Cancer is asking you, are you ready to let go? Are you ready to put yourself first? Are you ready to nurture the inner child within you that has been sitting around for years waiting for someone to show up and come save you? Are you willing to stand in your power? And are you willing to save yourself?